السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. I ask Allah to make this another beneficial sitting where we study the adhkar of the seal of the prophets and the Khalil of Rahman and the one who is the best to ever worship him, alayhi salatu wassalam, and give us the tawfiq to follow what he came with in every aspect of our lives. We last finished on adhkar al-adhan, and there's a couple of things that I wanted to mention before we start today's chapter. There's some questions mentioned, so we can clarify those questions before we take a new chapter. One of the questions was, when and how was the adhan legislated? And the ulama agreed that it was legislated after the Prophet ﷺ made hijrah in the first year that he settled in Al-Madinah. And when they moved to Al-Madinah, and this has been narrated in many Sahih hadith, that when they moved to Medina, they differed as to how to call for prayer. They didn't have that situation in Mecca, obviously, but now they are able to establish a masjid and they are able to openly call the adhan. So some of them said, let's have a horn, and this will alert the people now the congregational prayer is about to begin. And some of them said, let's have a bell, and that will alert the people that the prayer is about to begin. But these were the ways from Ahlul Kitab, and the Prophet ﷺ was not satisfied with these. He wanted something which was a distinct symbol for himself and for the religion of Islam, and for making the Tawheed of Allah uppermost. So what happened was, there was a companion called Abdullah bin Zayd who saw a dream, and he saw the 15 words or the 15 sentences that we have in the adhan today, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, until the end, La ilaha illallah. So he came the next day to the Prophet ﷺ, and he told him that he saw this dream, and the Prophet ﷺ agreed that this is from the revelation of Allah. This is a pious dream, and it's an upright dream, and we can act upon it. And Umar radiallahu anh also came to the Prophet ﷺ, and he affirmed the same thing. He said, I've seen the same dream also. So based on that, the Prophet ﷺ commanded Abdullah ibn Zayd, the first person who saw the dream, to teach Bilal the words of the adhan. But we have to point out here, and this is another question that arose, is that if the adhan was legislated through dreams, and now is seeing a dream and all these things, are they part of legislation of the Sharia after the passing of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? And the ulama are agreed, Imam al-Shatibi and Ittisam and other places are agreed that dreams is not a source of legislation. And unfortunately we see this a lot. You know, a person says, I saw Rasulullah in my dream and he told me to do such and such, and then they invent new acts of worship. None of this is proof. So how do we reconcile that with the incident that happened with Abdullah bin Zayd and Umar radiallahu anh? The ulama have said is that dream was then confirmed by the Prophet ﷺ. So they didn't see a dream and then act upon it themselves. They saw a dream and they said, is there dalil for this dream? So they went to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ approved. So this clearly shows that approval at the time of the Prophet ﷺ was available, but that is not available for us today. If someone was to see a dream, then there is no legislation in it. And if they happen to see something repeatedly, then what they need to do is confirm that understanding from the text of the Quran and Sunnah, just as the companions themselves did. And from this incident also we learn the importance of cooperating and clarifying and even counseling, even asking one another. Prophet ﷺ himself is the best of mankind, and wahi used to come to him day and night. But even then he asked his companions, he asked the congregation, he asked the people in the masjid, how should we alert the people about the prayer? Later on, when the Prophet ﷺ liberated Makkah from shirk, there was a man called Abu Mahdhur, and he was new to Islam. And he then was going to give the adhan in Makkah, because Bilal was going to go back with the Prophet ﷺ to Medina. So the Prophet ﷺ taught him how to make the adhan, and this was the tarjih that we were talking about last time. So it's legislated for a person to say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, quietly, and then to say aloud. So the adhan, as we know, Allahu Akbar, and then those next 4 sentences say it quietly to himself, and then he says it out loud. And the ulama have said the reason why that's been legislated is so that a person can know what he is saying, he can concentrate. That's one of the reasons. But another reason is that he can affirm for himself the Tawhid of Allah, and he is whispering to himself good whispers before he says it to other people. Whatever the case, the majority of the ulama have said that it's better to go with the adhan of Bilal radiallahu anhu. But they didn't say that you can't do it. The Hanafis and the Malikis and the Shafis and the Hanbalis all are agreed that it is allowed and it's legislated for a person to do it. And this is where they have differed. Some of the madhahib have said that there's 15 sentences, some of them said that there are 17 sentences, some of them said there are 19 sentences possibly in the adhan. Because we have 15, if you're making tarjih, and tarjih is this way, you whisper to yourself, you're adding 4 sentences. The Malikis have said no, there are 17 sentences, because there's another narration where the Prophet ﷺ has approved saying Allahu Akbar in the beginning twice and not 4 times. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Shaitan, La ilaha illallah, Shaitan. So the Malikis have given preference to that. But whatever the case, the ulama have differed between 15 to 19 sentences to be part of the adhan, and this is because the tarjih was legislated in the year of Fath, the 8th year after Hijrah. And also, from the benefits of the adhan, which I thought was suitable to mention before we move on, and is kind of connected to what we are going to look at today, is that the Prophet ﷺ has said that from the virtues of the adhan, إِذَا نُودِيَ بِالصَّلَاةِ أَدْبَرَ الشَّيْطَانِ. When the adhan goes, the shaitan flees. But once the adhan is over, he comes back. And the ulama have said the reason why he flees is because the words of Tawheed and the proclaiming of his oneness and his greatness, the affirming of Muhammad ﷺ, and that this religion is here to stay until Yawm al-Qiyamah, that there is a falah, there is a salah, and whether we listen to it or not, Allah will continue to be the greatest. Shaitan can't handle this. Shaitan can't handle this. So he runs away. And Ibn Jawzi rahimahullah was one of those who said that, who gave this explanation. Al-adhan hayba ishtaddu inzi'aj shaitan bisababiha. Because, and he gives another reason also, is that within the adhan itself, there is no riya, there is no showing off, there is no negligence. Because when the person is listening to the adhan, or when he is saying the adhan, he is conscious to making the oneness of Allah upright. Because when you are making the adhan, you're doing it in an audible and a loud voice so that the whole community can benefit from. So it's very rare that a person would make this adhan and shout out the name of Allah as loud as he can in the most beautiful way that he can, and then that action has riyah in it. And this is what the Shaykh Ibn Jawzi rahimahullah said, that within the adhan is a testification of his oneness, it's a testification of your connection to Tawheed also, but also it removes any kind of negligence that is there in a person and in the community itself. How can a person hear that and then think, okay, well, I'm not going to pray actually, or I'm just going to ignore that, or something like that. So Ibn Jawzi rahimahullah said that this is why it's so heavy upon the shaitan, and that when a person hears the adhan, it opens the door for his own self to become rectified. And his heart and his soul pays attention. But when the adhan is over, the shaitan comes back and he tries to infiltrate that soul that has become purified. And he tries even harder now. Because now you have listened to the adhan and you have said the statements of Tawheed, Shaitan wants to attack that even more, and he wants to bring that back down again to a state of negligence and not proclaiming the oneness of Allah like it was before the adhan. So these are just some of the benefits that we wanted to mention before we continue from the chapter adhan. Today we have chapter number 16, which is Dua al-Istiftah, and this is referring to the opening. Istiftah means the opening of the prayer. So now we are now moving into the sifat of Salah of the Prophet ﷺ and an explanation of the adhkar mentioned within it. And the ulama from a very early age from this ummah have given importance to understanding the way that the Prophet ﷺ prayed. But what is unfortunate now is a lot of people give it the actual actions itself importance more than the words itself. And as some of the ulama have said, that had they differed on how to increase khushu more than the difference between the fiqh of the salah, that would have been better for them. So some of them say put your hands below your navel, some of them say put your hands on your navel, some of them say put it above your navel, some of them say put it below your beard, above your chest. I'm not saying that this is a statement from the ulama, but we see this from some of the brothers, they put it so high. The point here is that there's legitimate khilaf in a lot of these issues. But there is no khilaf between the ulama that at the very minimum that khushu is mustahab. Some of them even said that is wajib. Some of them even said that if you pray salat without any khushu, you have to make sujood al-sahw. Sujood al-sahw to make up for the lack of attention that you've given to the prayer. So now, arguably, one of the biggest things that we need to know are what we are saying in the salah so that our salah becomes better, irrespective of what you're putting in your hands, irrespective of whether you're raising your hands or not. Dua al-Istiftah. And then now we have Hadith number 27, which has been narrated in Bukhari and Bayhaqi and is made Hasan with a different isnad. And the wording slightly varies with that different isnad, and it was made Hasan by Al-Allama Abdul Aziz bin Baz rahimahullah. But the narration here that we have is from Bukhari. And the Prophet ﷺ, when he used to start the prayer, he used to supplicate by saying, Allahumma ba'id bayni wa bayna khatayai, kama ba'adta bayna al-mashriqi wal-maghrib. Oh Allah, distance me between me and my sins, like you have distanced the east and the west. Make me completely far away from it. Allahumma naqqini min khatayai. Oh Allah, remove from me and purify me from my sins. Kama yunaqqa ath-thawb abyadu min ad-danas. Just like when a white garment has some stains on it, we scrub it, we want to get rid of it, and it becomes clean again, and we iron it, and we're proud to wear a white garment again. Oh Allah, remove from me any kind of stain or speck or anything which is unpleasant to be seen on a white garment from my soul, just like what you would see and want to be removed from your clothes. Allahumma ghsilni min khatayai bithalji wal ma wal barad. Oh Allah, wash me and cleanse me from my sins like that with snow and cold and cooled water. And what we learn from this hadith, and what we are going to do now, is look at some of the benefits. And there's a sheikh in Saudi Arabia, his name is Sheikh Aqil ibn Salim al-Shimri. And he, Allah preserve him, looked at this chapter, well not particularly this chapter, he looked at all of the ad'iyah that are known for the istiftah. And I don't think he was talking about Hisn Muslim because the order was slightly different, and he had some hadith which are not mentioned here, and we will mention them bi'idhnillah. But he did have, there are 6 hadith here, and he had 6 hadith also. So I think some of the wordings that he had would have been different. And from these 6 hadith, he brought over 150 different benefits. 150 different benefits just from 6 hadith. And some of them are extensive, some of them we've said before, so we won't repeat them, and we'll try and summarize as much as we can. So we ask Allah to reward the Shaykh for his efforts and the benefit that we will get from today's lesson. What he said from this hadith, this first one, is that we learn and a manner of how to ask Allah. And when we want to make supplication, when we want something given to us from Allah, it's very important that we purify ourselves before doing so. And we see this message also when we want to recite the Quran, we want to benefit from the Quran, And likewise, when we want to pray and stand in front of Allah, when we recite the Quran, we ask Allah to distance ourselves from our own weaknesses, from the shayateen also. So then how about the salah? When we start the salah, we make takbir of Allah, we signify His greatness and oneness, and then we ask Allah to remove our own weaknesses and our own shortcomings, so that this following salah is going to be of benefit for us. Also from this hadith we learn that this word khataya has been repeated over and over again, 3 times at least. And this shows that when a person makes an admission to Allah that he is weak and he has got negligence and he has got sins and there are so many things that he needs help with working on, shows the manner of making dua also that one should make dua showing desperation to Allah. Allahumma naqqini min khataya, Allahumma ghsilni min khataya, Allahumma ba'i bayni wa bayna khataya. These are all of these mistakes that I have, oh Allah. And the Prophet ﷺ was the one who was saying that. And he's showing desperation and he's admitting his sin over and over again. Also from this hadith we learn that none from Bani Adam is safe from error. None from Bani Adam is safe from error. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ used to make this supplication to us, to show us and to teach us. And that it's prescribed for us to say this, and that a person should always, what we learn from this hadith also, that a person should always seek to remove sin from himself and the evil effects of sin as well. So it's not sufficient that a person says, well, I'm not going to listen to music anymore, but then still think about the music and think about those people and think about immoral actions and those kind of things. That's not good enough. A person needs to distance himself from anything which is going to degrade him. And he needs to move towards something, the opposite side, like the Prophet ﷺ is supplicating here, from east to west. The complete opposite side of uprightness and moral character. And also we learn from this hadith that there are 3 stages of abandoning sin. The first one, the Prophet ﷺ used to supplicate, Ba'id bayni wa bayna khataya, make a distance between me and my sin. So what the first thing you do is you stop it. You complete stop it. You make a disvowel from that sin from the very beginning. Then we learn from the next stage, the Prophet ﷺ said, Allahumma naqqini min khataya, oh Allah, purify me. Now I've made that disattachment. Now I've stopped doing it. But it's still on my records. It's still in my brain. It's still maybe in my character. Oh Allah, remove that from me also. And another stage of tawbah that we learn is the last part, Allahumma ghsilni min khataya. Oh Allah, I've left this sin. And I promise never to go back to it. But there are still certain effects of that sin, of jahiliyyah, of not uprightness. Maybe my statements aren't good. Maybe my action and my character towards family members aren't good. Oh Allah, remove those effects as well from me because of those sins that I've had before. Also we learn from this hadith, and one of the ulama that came before us, his name is Al-Kirmani, and he explained Sahih al-Bukhari. He said that this supplication has so much wisdom in it. And one of those wisdoms is that a person, when he is making a supplication, he's making a supplication for his present, for his past, and for his future. He makes takbir for Allah. He was saying that, oh Allah, I stop right now. Forgive me for my past, and when I go forward, make it cool for me. Make it pure for me. And make it a clean slate. Also we learn from this that the conditions of having successful tawbah are these 3 that the Shaykh has mentioned. That it's not sufficient that a person comes before Ramadan and he says, well, I'm going to switch the TV off, I'm going to delete those music tracks, I'm going to stop all of that and delete Twitter and all of that. But you'll see me in 30 days time, just wait. That's not tawbah. That's not repentance. That's not showing any kind of remorse. That's not showing any kind of regret. So what a person must do, as soon as he finds out that something is wrong, or once he realizes that this thing is not good for me, he needs to stop it straight away. Stop doing it straight away. And there is izzah in this, there's honor in this. Don't think that people are going to think bad of you. Don't think that you're going to lose friends, or you're going to lose family members, or something bad is going to come of it. No, there will always be khair that comes out of it. Stop it straight away. You have regret for what you have done in the past, and you have firm resolve that you are not going to do that again. These are the conditions of tawbah that we can learn from this hadith also. Also we learn from this is that a person will only benefit, and this is kind of what we mentioned before already, that a person will only benefit from the recitation of the Qur'an if he comes with a heart which is not distracted and a heart which is pleading to Allah that he wants to benefit from worship. Otherwise, it just becomes robotic and systematic, and he's not going to benefit from the salah. So if you open your prayer, and if you open the Mus'haf, and you open the Dars, and if you open anything that you want to do to get closer to Allah, oh Allah, I've seen this poor person in Burma, I've seen this poor person in Syria, and they genuinely need my help. I've got a roof over my head, and they don't even have a toilet to sit on. Some people, they don't even have a ground to walk on. The only thing that they have available to put their feet on is a rubber boat. That's all they have. And if you make that kind of humiliation and, the submissiveness and humility towards Allah before the act of worship, that's how you will benefit from the act of worship. That's how it will make an imprint in your life. Otherwise, it just becomes a systematic. I've seen that thing on the TV, just take my card details and that's it. And then you haven't really benefited from the sadaqah. From this chapter also, we learn in the manner of praising Allah. And the next hadith, which is hadith number 28, Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, wa tabarak asmuk, wa ta'ala jadduk, wa la ilaha ghayruk. We look at Subhanallah, we look at Alhamdulillah, we look at Tabarakallah. And all of these things we've seen before. But what this teaches us is that we're doing this 5 times a day, a minimum of 5 different salawat a day. If you're going to increase in it, then it's also prescribed for you to do this, is that the more you make glorification for Allah, the more beloved He becomes to you. The more that you will want to learn about Him. The more that you will want to learn how to please Him and to see what He has with Him. Because this dunya is for those people who believe in Allah and those people who don't believe in Allah. It's mixed. This dunya is not the criterion. This dunya, you can live your life happy, but shaitan has been playing with you all this time. And it could be that Allah doesn't even care about you, and He doesn't even look at you in a manner of rahmah and love. But what we need to know is, who is Allah? Why is He one? How can we glorify Him? How can we signify His oneness? And when we do that, we will genuinely become better people. With Allah, with ourselves, with others from the creation. We will only say things that will please Allah. We will only want to have character which will be upright so that other people can see the beauty of the Tawheed of Allah. But unfortunately, that is being lost. And many people see the people who say La ilaha illallah and have the Tawheed of Allah as being the worst of people. The people in the workplace want to look for shortcuts or look for ways around doing the thing which is proper. Dua al-Istiftah also, I wanted to mention this before, but we can mention it now, is that with the majority of the ulama, all of these are mustahab. All of these are mustahab. But which means that if you leave it, then there is no harm. So if you make takbir and say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, bismillahir rahmanir rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, without saying any of these, then your salah is still valid. The majority have said that is mustahab. Some of the ulama have said that it's better for you to leave it. It's better for you to leave it. And that you should make takbir and start with Fatiha straight away. Not even say Bismillah, not even say A'udhu. You start to say Allahu Akbar, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, straight away. But what we learn from this, that these hadith have been recorded Bukhari and Muslim, Bukhari again, Muslim again, Muslim again, Muslim again. That it's not conceivable that we should abandon these sunnah. And all of these are from the upright and the most authentic of the hadith that have been met with the highest of caliber and conditions. So it's not right for a person to leave this, number one, this sunnah, but also it's not right for a person to not think highly of these sunnah and think, okay, I'm just going to pick one, this is the one I learned, and I'm just going to repeat that one. Istiftah shows that we've seen in the first hadith, tawbah to Allah. But as we see in the second hadith, it shows, and all of these have either one of them, or maybe even more than one. Tawbah, faqr, which is poverty and desperation, and ta'zeem. All of these ad'iyah, all of these istiftah have these things. Tawbah, faqr, desperation and poverty, and ta'zeem, making glorification of Allah. Before we move on to the second hadith, how can we conclude the overall understanding of hadith number 27, which is Allahumma ba'id bayni wa bayna khataaya, is that supplication is needed. We need Allah's help. And that every single one of us is sinful. And sins are real. And sins debase a person. And in this hadith, we find, and other hadith and other ayat in the Quran, that there are certain words given to sin. Not every time is sin used. Not every time ma'asi is used, or sayya. In this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ has said khataya. In this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ has referred to sin as danas. We have two characteristics of sin. One which is a mistake, and one is like a stain or an impurity. We also know in Surah Al-Mutaffifin, كَلَّا بَلْ رَانَ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ مَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. There is a dot, there is a hardness in their hearts, and this is because of what they used to do. And the Prophet ﷺ made tafsir of this ayah. And he said that there is a ran, which is a black dot, which is put on a heart. And if a person doesn't make tawbah, that dot will remain. And the more that he increases without making tawbah, without cleansing, as we see in this hadith, then the heart becomes harder and harder, and less of light. And the blackness we're talking about here is a lack of light, a lack of guidance, a lack of illumination between what is right and what is wrong. Kirmani, also, the one who we referred to earlier, just not long ago, makes an interesting observation also, is that why did the Prophet ﷺ supplicate towards the end of this hadith, "O Allah, wash me from my sins like that with snow and water and coolness"? What is the resemblance? Again, we're talking about resemblance. We talked about sin being a mistake, a sin being a weakness from yourself, a sin being an impurity, a sin being a hardness of the heart. What is the opposite that is mentioned here? Why is there used water? And why is there used cleaning? And why is there used snow? Kirmani, rahimahullah, said, sins are hot. Sins and desires are hot. And the hotness we are talking about here is that you have a love for it. It creates something in your head. And even the scientists say that today. They say that, for example, when something comes joyful in your life, whether it's a drug addiction, whether it's gambling, whether it's even our mobile phones, they're saying today, I think it's dopamine that gets injected or released from your brain, and that creates like a drug-like addiction. And it's a ladha, it's like a joy that you have in your body. And interesting enough, I watched this clip from a doctor who was saying that children who are given mobile phones, it's not normal for them to have that level of release in their brain. It's not normal. And these kind of things create ADHD. They are not able to hold attention. They're not able to hold a conversation with people. They're losing their manners. They're losing their character. They're losing their ability to think right. They're losing their ability to learn and develop. And this is true. You can see in society, every generation, it seems that they were going backwards in our manners and the way we speak. And this is what Kirmani is saying also. And ulama have talked about this before, that there is a release and a connection between a person and the desires and the sin, and that overtakes his body. Overtakes his body, and he feels that love everywhere. He's playing that PlayStation game. He doesn't want to be. He can't be distracted with somebody nudging his knee or something like that. He's overtaken by it, and it spreads. And sometimes that heat, if it is mixed with a fuel, then there is an explosion. There's an explosion. That's why snow is mentioned, because snow is an extinguisher. Snow is cool. Snow brings back a person towards thinking right. Snow and the cold, as we can see in our temperatures today, makes a person humbled in front of Allah. They are shaking, their bodies make, movements that they can't control. People think about death, people think about their return, people think about their lack of ability to move themselves when it's cold. And this then enables a reaction from himself inside to contemplate and make tawbah to Allah. Allahumma ghsilni min khata'i, Allah, remove me from my sins. Just like that, with snow and the coolness, tawbah becomes easy. Also, we learn from this, there is a benefit, because now we are able to learn how to talk to Allah. If somebody comes to your house from a far distant place, and your father is there, or you got your family there, you teach your children, listen, don't say this, sit like this, don't mention anything that happens in our house, don't expose our sins, give us, dignity and honor. So then how about when we want to speak in front of Allah? You stand in front of Allah, you're thinking about all those sins that you done last night, or all those things that you want to do afterwards, all those negligences and all those things about, would you do that conceivably if a person is concentrating and saying this properly? You learn about adab with Allah. And if you're doing that in your salah, then it's going to have a positive effect when you are walking down the street, when you are making your interactions, when you are speaking to other people, Muslim, non-Muslim. And this is the purpose of the prayer, because the purpose that you stand in front of Allah 5 times a day is not that Allah doesn't punish you anymore. It's not that you come on Yawm al-Qiyamah and say, well, I've ticked that box so you can't put me in the hellfire. That's not the point. If Allah wants, who are the first people that are going to be punished Yawm al-Qiyamah? The person who studied, and he said, I studied for the sake of Allah. And I will say, Kadhabt, you have lied. You only sought knowledge so that people would say that you are an alim. You only fought for the sake of Allah so that people would say that you are brave, and that you are trying to uphold the banner of La ilaha illallah. But you lied. It wasn't for that sake. The salah teaches us that we need to renew the reason why we worship Allah. We need to renew our poverty with Allah. And we renew that we need Allah to help us to become better people. We can't do it ourselves. It's not possible. It's not possible at all. And if you think there is a possibility of you becoming a better person without the hidayah of Allah, then that dua is not for you. The salah is not for you. Ubudiyyah is not for you. Islam is not for you, because this is the very essence of the meaning of Islam. Also, we learn from this is that it creates a mindset for a believer. That a believer is somebody who is positive. He's optimistic. So he stands in front of, oh Allah, the world has come upon me. Oh Allah, I have done X, Y, and Z. But I know there's a way out. And that way out is through you. That way out is by me showing to you that I am very, very sorry. And I want to change. And I want to have reformation in myself. So Allah, after this salah, let me go back to my family, just like I've washed my thobe. I came to you with a dirty thobe. Let me clean it and go home, and my family can see that I've now gone home better. Oh Allah, make it that my face was not radiant before my salah, make my face and my actions radiant. Oh Allah, make my actions clear and sincere. Oh Allah, I've come to you with no piety. Make me leave and go back with piety. And as you can see, the positivity and the optimism can be increased. And these are just some examples. I'm sure you can think of many more. Hadith number 28. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik wa tabarak asmuk wa ta'ala jadduk wa la ilaha. Purified or glorified are you from any kind of fault, O Allah, and wa bihamdik, kamal with ta'zeem wal hub is for you. Perfection with honoring and awe and love for myself is for you, Ya Allah. Wa tabarak asmuk, blessed is your name. Wa ta'ala jadduk, and high and lofty is your honor and your majesty and your splendor. And there is no God and deity that is worthy of worship except you, and deserves these things that we have just said except for you, Ya Allah. What we learn from this hadith and this supplication that the Prophet ﷺ used to make is that whenever you want to make dua, whenever you want to remember Allah, you begin by making this affirmation of glorification of Allah. And then after that, you ask Allah what you want. Oh Allah, we believe in you. Allahumma amanna faktubna min ash-shahideen. Oh Allah, we believe in you. So write for us that we are from those people who have witnessed. Oh Allah, we believe in the angels. So make it that those angels are our friends and not against us. Oh Allah, we believe in the prophets. Make us of those who are upon that way of steadfastness. Oh Allah, we believe in your book. So give us barakah from this book. Enable us to understand it and get closer to you by, oh Allah, we believe in the last day. There are many people that don't believe in it, but we are the ones that believe in the last day. Sincerely from our heart. Oh Allah, make us of those who are firm and don't humiliate us on that day. And likewise, make that affirmation and make that glorification and remove any kind of imperfection for your Lord before you ask for your own need. Because this shows you adab. You don't just knock on the door of your master and say, oh, give me this. You make a plea to him that you are the only one, you are the master. We have no one else to ask. There is no other master. Whose door are we going to knock on? You are the only one who has the keys of the heavens and the earth. You are the only one that can give me what I need. So give it to me, Allah. The meaning of this dua also is very similar, and this is one of the hikam and one of the wisdoms, very similar to the Fatiha. Because in Surah Al-Fatiha we have making hamd of Allah, making glorification of Allah, making tamjeed of Allah, or majesty and magnitude of Allah, and His oneness of Allah. And this is the very beginning that we find in the Surah Al-Fatiha. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, after we've said Subhanakallahumma bihamdik, wa tabarak asmuk, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, wa tabarak asmuk. Lofty are your names. Maliki yawmiddin. And when you say this, we know from the Hadith Qudsi, Allah Jalla wa Ala looks at you and He says about you that my servant, he's standing in such and such place and he has praised me. And then he has extolled me. Again, praise me again. And when you say Maliki yawmiddin, he says, Majjadani abdi, my servant has made me the king. So when you say wa ta'ala jadduk, it's very similar to the Fatiha. Tabarak asmuk, and Tabarak means that we seek blessing from Allah alone. And this is from the Tawhid of the Muwahhid, the person who has the Iman in Allah alone, he only seeks blessings from Allah. This is why the ulama have said that even reciting the Quran, or even listening to the Quran, or even making tawaf of the Kaaba, or even touching the black stone of the Kaaba, all of these aspects could even have shirk in it. Could even have shirk in it. If you touch the Kaaba, thinking that the Kaaba itself will give you blessing, is that shirk or is that tawheed? Shirk. Umar radiallahu anhu said that, I know that you are a stone, you can't harm me, you can't benefit me. Had I not seen the Prophet ﷺ do it, I would not have done it. He knew that he was only doing this as a ritual and following the Prophet ﷺ, not that the stone itself can give him barakah. Tabarak asmuk is that blessing can only come from Allah Jalla wa Ala. And this is unfortunate also. Some of the mashayikh said, if a person puts on a CD in his house, or he puts on a tape in his house, and he thinks that that tape and that CD is going to give him barakah because of the Quran in it, let alone the nasheeds and all these other things that people put on for seeking barakah, then that has the wrong intention and it could also lead to shirk. When we recite the Quran, we us ourselves need to have the niyyah of reciting the words of Allah and getting closer to Him by the hidayah that is in it there, in that book itself. And that is the blessing, and that is the multiplication. And one of the ajaib from the Quran that the ulama have also mentioned is that when you recite one surah, and you recite that surah again maybe a month afterwards, and you've studied that surah, you learn it, maybe if you know Arabic or using translation, maybe using tafsir, you come to that surah again after a period of time, you'll be able to find out benefits again, and that will continue until your deathbed. You recite that surah over and over again, the blessings from that surah are multiple, even the smallest of surahs, which are maybe even just 10 words. That's hadith number 28. 29 is a long one, and we'll just finish with this one. Is the Prophet ﷺ used to supplicate, and this is in Sahih Muslim, وَجَّهْتُ وَجْهِي لِلَّذِي فَطَرَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ حَنِيفًا وَمَا أَنَا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. I turn my face to the one who has created the heavens and the earth with tawheed, with sincerity and ikhlas, and I am not of those who make partners and deities to other than Allah. Inna salati, my salat, wa nusuki, all my rituals and acts of worship, wa mahyai, my life, wa mamati, and my death, lillahi rabbil alameen. The whole reason why I've been created, and the whole reason why I do anything, is for my Lord Rabbil Alameen, the Lord of everything that exists. La sharika lah, He has no partners, He has nothing that equates to Him. وَبِذَلِكَ أُمِرْتُ, and this is what we have been commanded with. وَأَنَا مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ, and I am from those who make submission to Him. Allahumma anta al-malik, la ilaha illa anta, wallah, you are the King, and there is no God or deity worthy of worship except you. Anta Rabbi, wa ana abduk, you are my Lord, and I am your servant. ظلمت نفسي واعترفت بذنبي, I have sinned myself and I give recognition to the sins that I have done. So forgive me. فاغفر لي ذنوبي جميعا, oh Allah, forgive all of my sins. إنه لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت, and there is no Lord that can forgive my sins except you. واصرف عني سيئها, oh Allah. Before that, واهدني لأحسن الأخلاق لا يهدي لأحسنها إلا أنت, oh Allah, guide me to the best of manners, and none can guide me to those manners except you. واصرف عني سيئها لا يصرف عني سيئها إلا أنت, oh Allah, take me away from bad manners in speech, in actions, in thought, and none can take me away from them except you. لبيك وسعديك, I'm here in obedience to you, I've heard your call, and I am seeking your pleasure. وَالْخَيْرُ كُلُّهُ بِيَدَيْكَ, and all goodness is with you. وَالشَّرُّ لَيْسَ إِلَيْكَ, and badness and evil cannot be ascribed to you, Ya Allah. أَنَا بِكَ وَإِلَيْكَ, I am from you, and I am for you, and I am coming back to you. Tabarak وَتَعَالَيْتَ, blessed and lofty are you. أَسْتَغْفِرُكَ وَأَتُوبُ إِلَيْكَ, and I seek forgiveness in you, and I repent to you and turn back to you. This particular narration, the ulama, and this is found in Sahih Muslim, and it's been mentioned by Ibn Qayyim also, Zad Ma'ad, that the Prophet ﷺ used to make this supplication in the night prayer. And as you can see, this is a very long one. And as you can see, the two before, well, one was very short, and the one before that was medium. And we know from this now, is that the night prayer, or when you're praying by yourself, the supplication and the adhkar should be longer. The ruku' should be longer. The sujood should be longer. The istiftah should be longer. And when you're praying the rawatib, when you're praying the wajibat, then that should be medium to short. So because some fajr, for example, is medium long, whereas maghrib would be short. And this is the manner of the Prophet ﷺ also. When he used to pray the night prayer, he used to make it long. And the istiftah used to be long also. And this is an example of what he used to do in his night prayer. وَجَّهْتُ وَجْهِي لِلَّذِي فَطَرَ السَّمَاوَاتِ, the most noble part of a person's body is the face. The most noble part is the face. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ made this supplication, that I turn my face to you, meaning internally. My most noble action and part is my ikhlas of my soul. And this is what I turn to you. Just like externally, I turn to you with my face. Fatir, Allah is al-Fatir, and He is the one. And some of the ulama said that He is not a Fatir, He is not a name, it's an attribute to Him. And some of them said that it's a name and an attribute. And the Fatir means that He is the Al-Khaliq, and they all agreed that He is Al-Khaliq. And the one who creates, subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the one who creates something without any previous example. So if a person makes a car now, or he develops a new tablet or something, he's developing something on something that was already created. But Al-Khaliq subhanahu creates something which has not been even heard of. You can't even imagine it. You can't even think and contemplate it. And the way he makes it with utmost perfection. And for certain things he just says be, and he becomes in that most perfect manner. And the reason why the Prophet ﷺ used to make this supplication is because this instills Tawhid al-Ubudiyyah. And it instills and it stimulates a person to be able to ponder when he is standing alone in the darkness. And the more that a person has of Tawheed, the greater that his dua and his ibadah will be for him, Jalla wa ala. The lesser the Tawheed, the lesser the ibadah. The stronger the iman and the Tawheed, the stronger the ibadah and the stronger the dua and the stronger the recitation and the longer. If it's medium, then it will be medium. If it's weak, if it is not there, then you will not see him in the masjid. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ started with the affirmation of Tawheed al-Ubudiyyah, and then the affirmation of Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah in the Salati wa Nusuki until the end. And in this dua we also learn that the Prophet ﷺ, when he is praying in front of Allah, he is affirming to Allah that he is standing here because he has been created for a great purpose. And he is replicating the resurrection in front of Allah Yawm al-Qiyamah. He's affirming that you are the one who's created, you are the one that has created me to stay on this earth to worship you, and that you are the one that is going to bring us back until Malik. And on that day there is only going to be one king. So I'm stimulating this right now. I'm simulating, not stimulating. I'm simulating this right now. I'm showing you, Ya Allah, that this is what's going to happen in dunya, so that I will be firm in the akhirah. Hanifan, Musliman, وَمَا أَنَا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. And this is because this is what Ibrahim alayhi salam used to say. And since Ibrahim, and even before Ibrahim, you are either a Hanif or either you are a mushrik. You can't have a person who is half Muslim, half something else. Even though we might hear it. A person is either a Hanif or not a Hanif. We also learn from this hadith and this supplication that life must be fulfilled with niyyah, or life must be filled with niyyah for Allah. When you wake up in the morning, when you eat, when you drink, as you go about your daily life, think about Allah. Make your niyyah for Allah. Because He is the one who controls the dominion. And if He is the one who controls life and death and everything within it, then He is the one that can aid you. Also we learn from this hadith and this supplication is that Tawhid and Istighfar are brothers. Tawhid and Istighfar come simultaneously together. Until Malik, Anta Rabbi, wa ana abduk, dhalamtu nafsi, fa'taraftu bi dhanbi. Istighfar, always with Tawheed. Yunus was stuck in a place where he didn't even know where he was. What did he say? La ilaha illa ant subhanak inni kuntu min al-zalimin. Istighfar with Tawheed. And this, as Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, when you have Tawheed and Istighfar repeating in yourself on a daily basis, checking yourself, this creates a level of Ubudiyyah between a person and his master. This is Ubudiyyah. This is the very essence of Ubudiyyah. This is the very essence of Ibadah. This is the very essence of you being a slave to Allah. And when you have that, yes, I'm making sins, but I'm trying. I'm making sins, I'm trying to become a better person in my manners, and the way I speak, the way I talk to people, my ibadah. And I'm only doing this for you, Allah. You will become a better person, and you will see improvement. And we know this from the story of Yunus. We know this from all these examples that we have in the Quran. We also learn from this supplication that in this dunya, there is either khair or there is shar. Either there is good or there is bad. And it's the Aqidah of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah that only good can come from Allah. and that there is no tawfiq except for Allah. All the goodness that you can think of that you've done in your life is because Allah has enabled you to do that. And the more you make affirmation of this, and the more you make a confession of this to Allah, the more He will increase you. My servant has confessed to me that he is showing to me alone that he needs me for such and such thing. I will facilitate for him, and I will make it even better for him. And it's also from the way of Ahl Sunnah that no evil can be attributed to Allah. Yes, Allah is the one who created it. Min sharri ma khalaq. He is the one who created evil. He created Iblis. He created evil actions. He decreed for them to happen. He knew that they were going to happen. But evil, wa sharru laysa ilayk, is not attributed to Allah. Shirk is not attributed to Allah. And this is now we learn. People say, for example, if Allah exists, why are people being punished? Why are people going through starvation? Why is there so much pain in the dunya? The answer is found in this hadith. وَالشَّرُّ لَيْسَ إِلَيْكَ وَالْخَيْرُ كُلُّهُ بِيَدَيْكَ. All goodness is with you. If I was to follow that goodness that you told me to have, the world would have prosperity. And it's because of our own evilness and our own wickedness and our own sins and our own desires, overcoming our own greed, overcoming one another, Allah Jalla wa Ala lets it happen. He allows it. He's not pleased with it, but He decrees it. And He allows it. So this evilness and these consequences from the sin is from our own hands, not because of Allah. So what we learn from this hadith as a conclusion from this supplication is that we learn the purpose of life, the reason why we have been created, and the reason why we pray also is found in this hadith. The reason why we pray and we make ibadah to Allah. Also we learn from this is that the deen, our religion, is split into three: Tawhid, Ibadah and Akhlaq. And we find that وَهْدِنِي لِأَحْسَنِ الْأَخْلَاقِ and Istighfar, and it begins with Tawheed. And when a person has this in himself, that he needs to work on his Tawheed, he needs to work on his Ibadah, and he needs to work on his own manners and his own etiquette, the way he speaks to people, the way he interacts with people, the way he thinks about other people, then he will know that he can elevate himself and become a better person and sort his own personality out and his own characteristics out from following the Hidayah. And he will be then facilitated to stay away from what is bad. وَاصْرِفْ أَنِّي سَيِّئَهَا لَا يُصْرِفْ أَنِّي سَيِّئَهَا إِلَّا أَنْتَ. We also learn from this that it's permissible for a person to recite, and this is from the ahkam that the ulama have mentioned, and maybe sisters can benefit from this also, is that when you recite part of an ayah which is not with the intention of reciting an ayah, then it's not classed as recitation. Because the Prophet ﷺ didn't start his prayer with the recitation. He started his prayer with adhkar. And the first recitation would be the Fatiha. But parts of this supplication have ayat from the Quran in it. وَمَا أَنَا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ إِنَّ الصَّلَاةِ وَنُسُكِي وَمَا هِيَ. All of this is found in the end of Surah Al-An'am. Fatir as-samawati wal-ard hanifan. And there's different ayat that are found in this. So we learn from this, and the ulama have said that if a person makes or recites an ayah without the intention of it being recitation, but with the intention of ruqya, with the intention of dhikr, for example, ayatul kursi or something like that, then that is not recitation. Also we learn from the ahkam, from this narration here, that it's permitted to recite from a parchment. It's not directly from this supplication here. But a person might ask now, for example, this is a long dhikr, and if it's a long dhikr, I might not be able to memorize it. And if this is a long dhikr, then the recitation after it should be long also. But I don't have it. I'm not memorized. So the ulama are of the opinion, some of them have said it's not permissible, but The majority of the ulama have said that it's permissible for a person, if there is a need for him to use a parchment, maybe it's a phone, maybe it's a book, and to recite from it. So if you go home now and think, okay, 1 hour, half an hour, 45 minutes, I'm going to pray 2 rak'ah. This supplication here will take me 30 seconds to a minute, but I won't be able to do it by myself. So I'll take my phone, I'll take my book. It's fine. It's fine. Then you pick up your mushaf. And this is on the condition that you're not turning away from the qibla, for example, and you're not making too many movements. If you have it on your phone, it's probably better. But if you have it in a book form right next to you, you open the mushaf, you do the Fatiha, then you pick your book up, and you recite the Fatiha, and for example, you do 1 juz in 1 rak'ah, then you make ruku, and you want to make it long, and then you want to pick it up again, and you go to Hisn Muslim, and you go towards the end, you think, okay, there's adhkar for ruku. And when you go into sujood, you can make supplication, make it long. All of this is permissible. And the reason why is Aisha radiallahu anha, she used to pray behind a child by the name of Dhakwan. And Dhakwan was a child. He didn't memorize much at that stage. And because he was a child, she used to tell him to lead, because he's a male, and lead the prayer for optional prayer. Dhakwan used to lead, and he used to hold a parchment, and he used to recite. And he used to make it lengthy. And bi'idhnillah, we will finish off this chapter next week. Ask Allah to make this beneficial for us all, and that He removes from us sins, and He gives us the coolness of Iman, Tawhid, and He removes from us the heat of sins and shirk, and He makes us better people, and He gives us the best of manners and the best of etiquettes with our Lord, and with our families, and with our communities, and with one another, and He makes us upright until we meet Him, and that He gives us the best of understanding and hidayah to follow the best of mankind, and that we will be resurrected with the best of actions and with the best of people in the hereafter, and that Allah unites us with our family members upon Iman, Tawheed in the dunya, and He unites us with couches, reclining, with joy, with drinks, with pleasure, with servants, with food, with drink, with happiness, with shade, all with one another. And that He doesn't separate us and create a detachment between us and our loved ones, because those people who enter Jannah, if people from their family members will enter the fire, then they will lose that detachment with them. And that love will be gone. And that lineage will be gone. So ask Allah that He preserves us and He forgives our forefathers and our grandparents and our parents and our lineage and our progeny that we are yet to meet. هذا والله أعلم وصلى اللهم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. The question here, the brother is asking, that a person, is there a dua that can be made for a person who has an unborn child? So the woman is pregnant. The woman is pregnant and she wants to supplicate for her child. And it's been said to them that they should recite Surah Yusuf and Surah Maryam. Is this correct? Allahu A'lam, we know nothing that's been narrated from the Sunnah which specifies Surah Yusuf, Surah Maryam. And in actual fact, I'm guessing the reason why they've been suggested to recite Surah Yusuf, Surah Maryam is because if it's a boy, then they have good etiquettes and good characteristics and iman, etc. And if it's a girl, likewise. But if we look at the story, and that kind of notion doesn't make sense anyway. Why would you do Surah Yusuf when you have Surah Muhammad in the Quran? That's one point. But also, the next point, Surah Muhammad is talking about how the Prophet ﷺ engaged with his enemies. To the extent that some of the ulama have called this Surah Qital, the Surah of fighting. Muhammad and fighting has been named simultaneously. And some of them say that, look, Muhammad was a warlord, he wanted to kill, he wanted to fight. And that's why that surah, according to your own Mufassirun, has been called Surah Muhammad and Surah Qital at the same time. But that's not the point. And this is what we have to understand. Surah Yusuf, the point isn't that you recite so that you can have these characteristics in your child. Don't get me wrong, this is what we need to learn and benefit from as adults, and all of us, women and men. Surah Maryam has the stories of Yahya and Isa and how they were dutiful to their parents, and Ibrahim, how he was trying to be good to his parent, but his parent didn't want to know and he rejected him and abandoned him, etc. So what I would say is that this is a false notion, because these surahs have been given to us so that we ponder on them and that we benefit from them. Not that they be recited in a particular way. And like we've seen before with previous questions, that if something which is good, but it has no precedence in the sunnah, then number one, it will become khilaf sunnah, and if it continues and somebody connects some kind of virtue to it, then it can also become a bid'ah. However, the Prophet ﷺ said, "La ba's bil-ruqya or bil-ruqa ma lam yakun shirkan," as long as there is no shirk involved in it. And Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah and others from the ulama have said that, for example, Surah Maryam and Surah Zalzala, if it's recited on water and there's zafran put on it and you wipe it on the belly, it reduces the pain and the contractions, and this is something which has been experienced and proven, therefore there's no harm in it. So if that's the case, if a person wants to do it because it has been proven, or he believes that there is goodness in it, but not necessarily that it is from the sunnah, then that is fine, bi'idhnillah. That is fine, bi'idhnillah, because it's ayat from the Quran. But if a person was to say, this is what we need to do to our newborns, or do this to your newborn and such will happen, now you can see the difference, then that is wrong. But what we do know from the supplication is that supplication is broad. In Surah Maryam, إِنِّي أُعِيذُهَا بِكَ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِهَا مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. Maryam's mother, if we're talking about Maryam alayhi salam, Maryam's mother made dua, and there is no specific dua, and she made dua asking Allah to protect her and her lineage from shaitan regime, and the ulama have said that this was given because Maryam was a miracle in herself, the ajaib that she had, the miracles that she had, and she had a miracle child, and this is in the dua, وَإِذَهَا بِكَ وَذُرِّيَّتَهَا, and her lineage that came afterwards, referring to Isa alayhi salam. Wallahu a'lam. There's a question here. The question is asking, if there is a revert sister with a wali and her male family members aren't Muslim, who then is her wali for marriage, or to take the role of guardian to find out about, how does she find out? Also, what book number is the hadith in Sahih Muslim? Hadith 29. Okay, first question is, if a sister becomes a Muslim and she has no wali, no male guardian, then she needs to appoint one for herself, and this could be a brother that she trusts, or it could be the local imam, or something similar. So what she really needs to do is get in touch with her local Islamic center, trustworthy one. Hadith number 29, what number hadith is it? According to the Arabic one that I have here, it's in volume number 1, page 100, volume number 1, page 534. Okay. But if you look at Sahih Muslim in the English version, I'm sure you will find it in the description of the Prophet's prayer. Question is also asking, I don't understand the part where you said when reciting a part of an ayah without the intention of recitation. If a person, for example, the Prophet ﷺ, as we will see in Hisn Muslim, the Prophet ﷺ in the morning, in the evening, he used to recite Hasbi Allahu la ilaha illahu alayhi tawakkaltu wa rabbul arshil. This is the last ayah of Surah Tawbah. So if a person wants to recite this, not out of recitation, but with the intention of making dhikr, then إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, then his intention will be for what he intended, and it won't be recitation. It's also been narrated the Prophet ﷺ used to say in supplication, in sujood, Allahumma atina fid dunya hasana wa fil akhirati hasana wa qina adhaban nar. That's an ayah from the Quran. Yes, he changed Rabbana to Allahumma, but it's still an ayah from the Quran, and it's still part from the ayah. But this is not recitation. This is dhikr. And there are plenty of examples, as we have seen today here also. Any questions? Go ahead.
Reading from the Mus'haf, does that have to be from the office? Or do you want to do that?
Reading from the Mus'haf, is a person allowed, or from a parchment, or from a book, or from a phone, is it only for Nawafil Salah, or is it for all Salawat? The madhab of the Hanabila have said that you can do it for all Salawat. And the rationing that they have is that the Quran did it in the prayer, and he was leading, and there is no differentiation between Nawafil and Wajib. If a person, for example, was to sleep during a Nafil prayer or a Wajib prayer, his Salah will be broken. It has the same conditions, it has the same nullifiers. So this is what they've said. Others from the ulama have said that this is only in the Nawafil, and this is how the Prophet ﷺ did it. Hudayfa ibn Yaman said that the Prophet ﷺ, whenever he used to go by an ayah of Rahmah, he used to supplicate for Rahmah. Whenever he used to recite an ayah of Adhab, he used to stand in front of Allah. When he is standing making recitation, he used to pause and he used to make dua in the salah itself whilst he is standing. The last ayah, for example, of Surah At-Tin and Surah Al-Qiyamah, it's been narrated the Prophet ﷺ, أَلَيْسَ اللَّهُ يَحْكِمُ الْحَاكِمِينَ أَلَيْسَ اللَّهُ, is it last ayah of no, Surah Al-Qiyamah? Surah At-Tin, Surah Al-Qiyamah, أَلَيْسَ ذَلِكَ بِقَادِرٍ عَلَى يُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى. Isn't Allah able to create? He's the one, the ayah before that, He has created you from a nutfa and He's made from you man. Isn't Allah able to repeat that on Yawm al-Qiyamah? Isn't it? Rhetorical question. It's been narrated in Muslim Ahmad and other places. The Prophet ﷺ said, he used to say, Bala wa ana dhalika min ash-shahideen. Of course you are, and I am one of those who make witness of that in the dunya. The ulama have said that if the Imam does that in the wajib prayer, then you can't say that. But if he does that in the nafil prayer, Bala and Sabbih Hisma Rabbika al-A'la. It's been narrated, the Prophet ﷺ said, Ij'alu hadha fi sujudikum. That the first ayah, Sabbih Hisma Rabbika al-A'la, the Prophet ﷺ said, make this Subhana Rabbi al-A'la in your sujood. But some of the other ulama have said that if the Imam recites this in the witr prayer or in the nafil prayer, you hear him saying it, then you should say Subhana Rabbi al-A'la. There is no harm in that. And there are many other examples. Allahu Akbar.
Recitation when the Imam is leading the prayer.
Yes.
The followers, do they have to?
Does the person praying behind the Imam recite Surah Al-Fatiha in the obligatory prayers? The majority of the ulama are agreed that if it's a silent prayer, then he needs to do it. And this is because of the hadith of Anas bin Malik that we used to recite behind the Imam in the Dhuhr and the Asr prayers. And we all used to recite. And this is the opinion of the majority of the ulama, except the Hanafis. And the Hanafis said that there is a hadith in the Daraqutni and Ibn Majah which is weak, with the agreement of the Muhaddithun, that when the Imam recites, then his recitation, falahu qira'ah, is the recitation for the person praying behind. The ulama agreed that this hadith is weak. And even if we were to accept this hadith, then within the Hanafi madhab also there are scholars who have disagreed with this hadith. Imam al-Tahawi said, it is safer for you to recite the Fatiha, it's safer. And arguably one of those arguments here is, a person prays Salat al-Dhuhr, a person prays Salat al-Asr, 50 years of his life, 60 years of his life behind the Imam, and he never gets the joy of saying Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen quietly to his Lord during the day. So what does he think about? Allahu Akbar. He says the Thana, but he can't say the Fatiha. He says Subhana Rabbil Azim, but he can't say the Fatiha. He says the At-Tahiyyat and all the other aspects of Salah. He can say that firmly behind the Imam, but he can't say the Fatiha. It doesn't make sense, according to some of the ulama. And like we've said, according to even a number of the Hanafis, is that it's safe for you to do the Fatiha. This is the silent prayer. What about the loud prayer? And the majority of ulama have said that the loud prayer, then he doesn't do anything. إِذَا قُرِئَ الْقُرْآنِ فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ وَانْصِتُوا لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. Listen to it, be quiet so that mercy can be shown to you. The Imam's reciting, you want mercy? Be quiet, listen. Concentrate, have khushu'. And this is the opinion of the majority of ulama. However, the Shafi'is and the Hanbalis have said, some of the Hanbalis have said that you must recite after or recite the Fatiha at any stage, whether it's after the Imam, whether it's during the Imam. It could even be before the Imam, when the Imam is quiet. Say, for example, he does this one, وَجَّهْتُ وَجْهِي, and he's doing a very long one. Nobody's saying this is for the Salatul Layl. But if he does this in the wajib prayer, this is also fine, because the Prophet, like we've said just a minute ago, that there is no differentiation between what is legislated in Nafil and what is legislated in the wajib. So imagine he's made it very long. Or imagine he's coughing. Or imagine he's quiet for a reason. And you think, okay, here's an opportunity for me to do the Fatiha, then you can do the Fatiha before he's done the Fatiha. There's no harm in this. And the Imam and the Shafis and a group of the Hanbalis have said that this is the correct way. And the reason why we know this is the Prophet ﷺ said, La salat liman lam yaqra' bi fatihatil kitab. And this is specific. There is no salat for a person who doesn't recite the Fatiha. And also the Prophet ﷺ one day was reciting the loud prayer, Salatul Fajr. And there was a companion behind him, and he didn't do the Fatiha. He did Sabbih Isma Rabbikal A'la, loud. So the Prophet ﷺ turned around and he said, who was that person who was reciting Surah Al-A'la, whilst I am reciting as well? He's reciting and he's reciting. Is it, we've got two Imams now? Who is the one who's reciting? So the companion said, it was me. So the Prophet ﷺ said, La tafal, don't do this again. Illa bi al-kitab, except for the mother of the books, which is another name of the Fatiha. So this is the Fatiha, this is Salatul Fajr, this is a loud prayer. The Prophet ﷺ said, don't do any surah, again, except for the Fatiha. So from this we learn that the Salah is specific. The ayah which says, be quiet and listen to the recitation, that is fine. And if we look at the sabab al-nuzul, and if we look at the context of it, the mushrikun at that time, they said, لا تسمعوا لهذا القرآن والغوا فيه لعلكم تغلبون. Don't listen to this Quran, don't listen to what Muhammad is saying and his companions. If you hear it, it will enchant you. Don't listen to him. If you hear him, cover your ears, carry on walking. Allah says, listen to the Quran, be quiet, pay attention, so that mercy can be shown upon you. What's wrong with you, Quraysh? So this is the context. So this is why the ulama have said that this hadith is more specific, and this is a general qaida. If you see a hadith and you think there's a contradiction, this is general, which one do I take precedence to? Which one do I give precedence to? You give precedence to the one which is more specific to your situation. This is a general principle which will give you a good understanding of the Sharia. So for example, the Prophet ﷺ said, don't pray any salat after Fajr prayer, after Asr prayer, or when it's Zawal. Don't pray. It's haram for you to pray in this time. Right. Another hadith said, if you come into the masjid, لا تجلس أحدكم إذا دخل المسجد حتى تصلي ركعتين. You have to pray 2 rak'at. General. Any masjid you go into, you have to pray 2 rak'at before you sit down. Salatul Fajr, I've prayed it. Salatul Asr, I've prayed it. Zawal is there. General. Which one do you give precedence to? When you come to the masjid and it's not this time, then this becomes general now, because this is specific to your situation. But if you come in, for example, you've come for Eid prayer, and the Eid prayer is meant to be straight after Shuruq, as soon as the sun rises, as we find that in some masajid, what do? You come in, you pray 2 rak'at? No, this becomes more specific now. Even though both are general, you take which is most specific to your situation. So when you're when you're standing behind the Imam is reciting. What is more specific to your situation now? Listening or the Fatiha? Khilaf is strong, but what is the correct opinion, bi'idhnillah, and this is the opinion of many of the ulama today, Ibn Baz and Uthaymeen and others from the ulama, that you should recite the Fatiha in the loud prayers and in the quiet prayers. Because what are you doing otherwise? You have come to pray. Wallahu a'lam.
Harman Sharifan, after Surah Al-Fatiha, they give you a little bit.
Yes. Yeah.
I would like to believe that this is for yourself to decide.
Some of the ulama in Makkah and Medina, after the Imam has said Walad Du'aleen Ameen, they are quiet for a period of time. And Imam Shafi'i said that this is mustahab. Imam Shafi'i said this is mustahab because this enables the people from behind to do one of the wajibat that he held was wajib. Majority of ulama say that this is an innovation. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah himself said that this is an innovation also. That there is not been narrated that the Prophet ﷺ paused for a lengthy period to enable the people to recite the Fatiha. So this is again an issue of khilaf. And also we learn from this that not every innovation is severe. Not every innovation is going to take you outside from the sunnah. Some innovation might be ijtihad, which is legal for a person. So for example, another example. Allahumma jalni min al-tawwabin wa jalni min al-mutatahhirin. Do you say that after wudu or not? You say that? Some of the ulama say it's bid'ah. Because according to them, the hadith is X, weak. So now you've got no dalil to make that action. Make sense? But will they call you mubtadi'? No, they won't call you mubtadi', because this is legitimate ijtihad. You are following the tasheeh or the tahseen of Imam al-Albani and Ribbaz, and you've got ulama. So this is the same thing. So now, just because there is khilaf doesn't mean that we have to become harsh with one another, and we have to. But some of the ulama have said that it's mustahab for you to have a pause so that the Fatiha can be recited. Others from the ulama, the majority of ulama say that there is no dalil for this. And this is correct. But what is right, and what is arguably one of the sunnahs that is forgotten, and what is still being practiced by some of the ulama in the haram, Shaykh Ali al-Hadayfi especially, is after each sentence there's a pause. So there's no harm in the imam saying, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyaka, and connecting it with the harakat of each sentence. That's fine. But what is the sunnah is the Prophet ﷺ used to stop at the end of each sentence. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Now, if the Imam is reciting like that, and we also know that the Prophet ﷺ used to make mud at the place of mud. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Like that. And then stop. Now, imagine if the Imam is doing it like that. Have you got a chance to do the Fatiha? Of course, you've got plenty of time to yourself. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. You can follow him in that way. Wallahu a'lam. Any questions? Yes, uncle. Salatul Janazah, is there Surah Fatiha in it? The Hanafis have said there is no Fatiha. But this is for the ma'mumin. These are for the people praying behind, not for the Imam. So what we had the other day was a mistake, unfortunately. The Imam must recite Surah Fatiha to the best of my knowledge, even according to their madhab. As for the person praying behind the Imam, then he doesn't do Fatiha because of what we've said before in the normal prayer. They said if this is normal prayer, then this is the same thing in the Janazah prayer. However, the correct opinion, this is the opinion of the majority, to the extent that some of the ulama even said that the Janazah should be done aloud. And this has been narrated by Ibn Abbas, that he did it aloud. But what is affirmed is that he, Ibn Abbas, and the Prophet ﷺ used to do the Fatiha in the Janazah prayer. So the first takbir, whether you want to do the Thana or the Istiftah or not, it's up to you. Some of the ulama said yes. The correct opinion is no, and this is the opinion of the Hanabila, because the point of the Janazah is not to start praising Allah and not to start exalting Allah and those things. Yes, you want to do that, but the Fatiha has that also. That's why we said when you're doing your own salah, if you went straight into the Fatiha, there's no harm, because the first line is Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. It's fine. You've praised Him. And the adab of making dua wal ad-dallin is still there. But the janazah has been made as a dua and a supplication for the person that is passed away. Number one. And the reason why it's been made light is so that you make the dua and everybody makes dua together, and then we bury them and we hasten the burial. That's the whole point. Not that we make the longest istiftah and then we make the Fatiha very long and then we have a surah after it as well, and then we make takbir after. That's not the point. Fatiha, durood, dua, taslim, one taslim. And again, the Hanafis have made qiyas with 2 taslim. There are some narrations that the Prophet ﷺ used to make 2 taslim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. But what is with the majority of the ulama is that he used to make 1 taslim in the janazah prayer, and that's the end of the prayer. Then you pick the deceased up and you go. Barakallahu feekum. Questioner here is asking, the issue of Zakatul Fitr confuses me. It says Zakatul Fitr is obligated on every man, woman, child and old. Therefore, what does Fitr mean? I think the confusion probably refers to normal Zakat and Zakatul Fitr. Normal Zakat is only given on wealth which qualifies as wealth, whether it's gold or silver or cash, or livestock, if you've got camels, if you've got cows, and if you've got sheep. and business men on their stock, and your harvest. These are the 4 things that you need to give zakat on. If you have the nisab, which is the minimum threshold, and the minimum threshold for all of those things we've mentioned is different. So for gold it's 85 grams, for silver it's 595 grams, for camels it's 5 camels, for cows it's 20, and for sheep it's 40. If you have that as a minimum, and the minimum threshold for harvest, things which are stored and measured, not things which are not stored and measured. For example, you're a farmer, and you have grapes. So not grapes. You have apples. Apples are not stored. If you store them, and they will go bad after, they will go brown, and that's it, khalas. So the Prophet ﷺ said, "Laysa zakat al-khudrawat." There is no zakat on vegetables and fruit. It's only things which are stored. Grains, grapes, which is something which is stored because it dries and becomes raisins. Dates, etc. All of those things which are stored have 5 awsuq. And 5 awsuq, which is roughly around 300 kilograms of harvest. That is the minimum threshold. 85 grams of gold, 595 grams of silver, 5 camels, 20 cows, 40 sheep, and 300 kilograms of things which are stored and of value. These are the threshold. If you have that, and you've had it for 1 year, then you need to give zakat on it. Except the harvest. The harvest is given on the day that the harvest is given. That comes about. Zakat al-fitr, however, is an obligation upon every single one of us. Children, man, old, elderly, whether you've got nisab, whether you've not got nisab, it's a wajib upon. So the ulama said one of the things with zakat al-fitr is that I could be poor, and if I'm able to give the zakat al-fitr, I'll give the zakat al-fitr, but I can also accept it at the same time. Why? Because zakat al-fitr is a day, Eid is a day of joy. Eid is a day of sharing. Eid is a day of us thinking about one. How can I be happy about Ibrahim? He hasn't even got any rice. He's got nothing to eat on this day. Imagine you did that throughout the globe. And the ulama have also said that if there is a benefit in you giving to a non-Muslim, imagine how much poverty and desperation we can remove. Do you have to give zakat al-fitr on behalf of your guardians? The ulama have said that those people you are responsible over, you have to make sure that you have to give zakat al-fitr for them. So my child has to give zakat al-fitr, but that responsibility falls on my behalf. But if I have a child that's over the age of bulugh, he's become a man, he's 12 years old, he's 13 years old,